Today we're checking out the MIDI for this Spiritbox cover. We have one track for ODIN, our virtual MIDI guitar right here, which is just all MIDI information playing the notes. We will, of course, dissect all of this MIDI. Then we have a lower layer of that exact same MIDI. So it's literally just ODIN 3 playing the exact same thing, printed out, pitch shifted 12 semitones, and then ran through an amp simulator. Some amp simulators also have pitch down kind of algorithms, so basically creating like this lower octave. So if we solo this right here, it's just this super sludgy extra layer thickening up the sound. Then we have sanguine bass for the bass right here. We have a drums bus. The drums sound like this. This is just one big drum stem because we're focusing on the guitars and bass. Some people have been asking, what are these drums on a lot of our covers? And let's just say you'll have access to these soon enough. Then we have an effects bus and we have just a bunch of synths. So for the effects, that's this. And then the synths, which are relatively simple this time around. But of course, we're here for the MIDI, so let's have a look at that. If we look at this, it's really, really simple. It's always the same, honestly, when we're looking at these metalcore MIDIs. You will also be able to download them all in the link in the description. So one thing you do want to pay attention to is the pitch bends. So if you have a listen to Holy Roller here, we can go to pitch bend and you can see right here, these bends have been drawn in. One important note is that whenever you're drawing these bends in pitch bend modulation, you don't want to draw the exact same curve every time, because if you think about you playing guitar, you can't bend the exact same way. You're never going to be quite as fast or quite as slow or quite as high. And so by manually drawing your bends for each note, you're going to ensure that you're going to sound more human. Now, another note, of course, is that ODIN also comes with pre-recorded bends. So if you go in the key switch list, you can actually have some key switches for bend up fast, bend up slow. And while these are cool and of course the most real because they are actually played, you can't always control how fast or slow they are. So whenever you think, oh, these sound great, but they're not exactly what I'm looking for, that's when you're going to use pitch bend modulation and just to draw those bends this way. Now, moving along from the bends, we have some chugging as well. So if we have a look here, these are at 20 velocity. So that's not the super bloomy palm mute. These are the more tight ones, but still not completely dead. So let's have a listen. And interestingly here, we have 30 velocity, so these are the more bloomy ones. So I always teach on this channel, you want to use as many different types of palm mutes as possible if you want to make it sound more human. Almost no guitarist is that tight that they are able to pick the exact same way and mute the exact same way. So having some variation is really cool. Now I will say, while I did just mention, you know, more human, Spiritbox is not the most human sounding when it comes to their production or their guitar playing. It's usually very tight, very comped, and so no one would judge you for using the exact same palm mutes all the time either, because again, you know, they're a pretty digital sounding band. An amazing sounding band, of course. The production on these albums is incredible, but we're not really going for mega human here. So that's also why you don't see like human error noises and stuff like that. So then we have big chords. And after the big chords, we have the noise a lot of people are excited for. So this is the Gojira scrape or rake. I know some people are talking about, oh, there's actually another band that did it before Gojira. That's all good, you know, we're not trying to argue that. But this type of noise is super, super popular right now. Let me loop it a little bit so you can go crazy. It's basically made by playing a pinch harmonic across all your strings while somewhat muting them at the same time. It's not the hardest technique to learn on guitar, but it's still a little bit annoying if you've never done it before. But in ODIN, it's actually pretty easy to just build yourself by playing pinch harmonics at different heights, and so therefore also different strings, and just letting them interrupt each other. Now, I will say we also have a tutorial going more in depth because there's even more you can do. Like, depending on which type of harmonic you're using, remember ODIN has 3 of them. There's natural harmonic, pinch harmonic, and nasty pinch harmonic. Usually you're going to use the pinch harmonics, these two, for this. But depending on which ones you're using there, you're also going to have a very, very different type of sound. Some a little bit more warm, others a little bit more shrill. And so you really want to utilize the different versions depending on what you're going for your song. You could, again, also just use natural harmonic, even though it's not the exact same thing, it could still be a very different type of noise. And if we're being honest, whenever you hear this type of noise, you're making noise, you know, we're not trying to go for some crazy, interesting note or melody. This is just a meow. So I'll put a link in the description for that tutorial as well. But if you want to be fast and quick, just a bunch of pinch harmonics at different heights after each other. And then a little trick I like to do at the end is playing one dead, like muted note here. Because if you've tried to do this in real life, you will notice that when you reach your last string, you're usually not getting any real harmonics out of it anymore. It's very hard to cleanly pinch harmonic on a thick string, especially when you're doing like this super fast movement. Another thing you could say is, hey, isn't this more than 8 strings? Like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Technically, this is not like completely playable because it's 9 instead of 8, but really you're not listening for that. You're not hearing the difference. You just want enough harmonics to fill out the amount of time you're spending doing this rake or whatever you want to call it. So then we have more of the same riff. So right here then you have like this stuttery, glitchy effect. And of course, again, we were trying to go for that robotic, overproduced sound. If you feel like this stutter is too digital sounding, because I mean, obviously it is, you could also have some variation here. For example, maybe the last note, you can move up like 12 semitones. Then it's already not as spammy anymore. You could also utilize a different type of harmonic. Let's see here. Like, let's say we go for pinch harmonic, A sharp -1 key switch, A sharp -1 key switch here. Use it across the whole thing. Let's see what that sounds like. That's already less in the face. Or if you want, you could also only use it for half the duration. You can do all sorts of different things. You're just trying to make really weird noise, basically. And we have a lot of really weird noises if you want. So then there's a little bit of no guitar. And then we get just big, big chugging. So let's check out these velocities. Right here, this is 20, 20, 20, 25. So 25 is where they start being the bloomy ones. So what if we put these to 22 and see the difference? Yeah, that's right. So then they're no longer moving as long. So we definitely want these to be 25, 30, you know, where we trigger the bloomy palm mutes. And then the notes before that are the shorter, chuggier one, the tighter ones. So it's like tight, 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 bloomy, tight, bloomy. And then if you wanted to go even further, you could even go for dead. So for example, if we go into alternate mute dead A0 key switch, we can place an A0. There's probably 2 dead, but it's just to show you. If you get rid of it, you can really see like the different levels of tightness you can have for your palm mute. Play that again. Also, once again, we have a bunch of these like rake, Gojira scrape thingies, whatever you want to call them right here. Because again, we're going for a pretty digital kind of production here, it's fine that these are the same, but if you feel like, hey, it's actually too digital for me that these are the exact same kind of rakes, then of course you can change them a little bit. Maybe you want to move some of the notes around, move some of the lengths around, maybe use a different type of harmonic for one of the four. Again, it's up to you how human you really want this to sound. Now, one interesting comparison we can also do is how much work is that lower tuned guitar really doing. So let's solo just the guitar. Now let's add you can definitely hear it working. And then let's add the bass. Hell yeah. After that, we have just some silent synth stuff with like a lo-fi guitar in the background. We don't have to focus on that too much. And then we get to the even lower tuned version of the initial riff. So it just keeps on getting more and more disgusting as we keep on going lower and lower, but the riff remains largely the same pitch bendy stuff, same kind of chugging, and then finally we have some more bending here. This is actually different from before because you can see the curve is very different. Here it's like this sharp up and down, and here it's like a slow move up. One important note here is that since this is going in the negative, that is only possible if either you played your note a fret too low, started it bent up, and then bent it right back down. Because again, you can't bend lower than what your note is actually sounding like. So that's important. If you're trying to do bends in your own songs and you think like, oh, I'm gonna bend like up a few cents and then down a few cents, that's not possible. You can't bend down on a string. I guess unless you have like a tremolo bridge or something like that, but that's not really the case here. So that is the guitar MIDI. Again, all will be available in the description. And then for the bass MIDI, it's honestly, as always, super easy. It's just the same bends drawn here. And then everything is just red, alternative picking, nothing too fancy, special. Again, this bass just has to give you like a solid low-end foundation. It's not getting too much attention. If you wanted to have a bass solo section, of course, that's when you can start using articulations to make it stand out. Or if your bass is quite loud in the mix, so you need it to be, you know, a realistic performance, of course, you know, start using all of your articulations and velocities and all of that. But in a production like this, you're just trying to be a low-end foundation. And so that's all. Again, all the files will be in the link in the description. I hope you found this very interesting. If you need your own MIDI guitar, of course, go pick up ODIN 3 at solemntones.com, and happy producing.